The portal is finally finishing up pretty much.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson, that's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. We'll talk about Game Time in just a little bit. I want to thank you every day for joining us every day, because you know what? You guys have made Locked On the number one sports podcast network there is. We got an email yesterday about how happy all the advertisers are and all this stuff, and that's all because of you guys, and we appreciate it. So, Jimmy, the portal is still portaling, and Alabama's got some visitors coming in today, coming in tomorrow. I think Terence Green from Oregon is coming in. Racing, oh gosh, help me.
Racing Delgatti.
How did I forget? That sounds like something you are racing. Like, what are you doing this weekend? I'm racing Delgatti. And, it's over there near Dubai. Anyhow, and then there's some other guys that potentially could be coming in, still looking along the trenches, it seems like.
Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt my feelings if we got another receiver. I'm fine with not getting a running back. I'm fine running with the running backs we got. I am. Yeah. I would have liked Hollywood Smothers. I felt like that was more of a gravy thing. But I really want trench guys. And again, if we got one more receiver, I'd be cool.
I think wide receiver is sort of a must. We haven't heard many wide receiver names. And I think for right now, the focus is on who can you get to add to guys that could potentially play, guys that might potentially be on the first team or at least contend to be a first team player. I think as probably we get into next week, I imagine we might see more of what I would call the depth ads, because there just needs to be some good depth at wide receiver. I think wide receiver 1 through 6 is sort of spoken for, or we can win with exactly what we got now, wide receiver 1 through 6, but there needs to be a 7, 8, 9, and 10. and hopefully what you're getting there is freshmen and sophomores that you can develop into top 5 or 6 guys over time, and not just, quote, practice players, though you do need the practice players. In fact, we're going to talk about some walk-ons today that help fill out the 105 and help us practice and some of the more significant walk-ons on the team, because spring practice starts, I think the exact number is somewhere around 52 days from right now.
That's nuts. But yeah, and here's the other thing. The portal to get in closes tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow night.
But the getting out and going somewhere can be anytime.
I think the date that Alabama fans need to remember, and this is going to shock a lot of people. See, they do school differently today than they did back in the prehistoric days when me and Luke were at Alabama. But now there's a spring 2. There's a spring 1 and a spring 2. The deadline to enter school for spring 2 is February 13th. So that should be telling us that Alabama can sign football players to be on the team all the way to February 13th. And I do think you will see players sign in February. Again, I think that's going to be more of your depth guys when they're just trying to fill out the 105 and be able to practice with a fully formed football team. But yeah, the portal in terms of entry ends tomorrow night. I'm not concerned or worried, Luke, but I'm not going to be surprised if a couple more Alabama players enter the portal here last minute.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that spring 1, spring 2, all this stuff. I mean, my daughter's at Alabama now. She's a freshman, and she was supposed to come back, I guess, a week ago Saturday or something, and go to school. And then she said, Dad, I'm changing my flight. I was like, okay. I figured she'd be coming in Sunday or maybe even Friday. She was like, no, I'm going to come in Tuesday sometime. I said, but don't you have class? She goes, well, I don't really have class until Wednesday, and that's online. So I'm like, and my other son at Arizona State, I talked to him yesterday, and he was like, yeah, all my classes this year are online. And I was like, well, do you even go to school? I mean,
then why are you?
I don't even know what people do anymore.
Yeah, then you could go to Arizona State while you sit in Mountain Brook.
I mean, yeah, it just the whole point of school, and I'm not going to get off on a rant about this, but I think people are missing the point of college. Yeah, it's great to go and get an education, and if you want to get a master's or if you want to be a doctor or whatever, that's great. But I think most of the people listening to this, I'd be willing to bet, would say, you know what, college helped me do more than anything was make contacts and learn how to be social and learn how to deal with people and interact, much more so than anything I remember from marketing. And whatever I do remember from marketing is outdated anyway, because I learned it back in 1994. So
No, that's totally true. I think college is your college experiences, which go well beyond taking courses.
And again, that does sort of tie into what we're talking about here. And that's why I think, what Ty Simpson, we'll talk about him later, what he said yesterday was so crucial about a legacy. And hey, I don't want to be remembered as somebody who's just chasing a bag, essentially. And now you've got guys moving all over the place. I mean, I did a segment with the Locked On Buckeyes guy last night because he wanted to talk about Quay Russaw and James Smith. And I mean, I was honest about it. I said, hey, let me tell you something. I've followed these guys since high school, seen them play in some big time moments, and their ceiling is way high, but they haven't tapped their potential either. And I said, if they get to their potential, you're looking at 2 first-round draft picks. But if they don't reach their potential, they're probably day 2, day 3 guys, because they can dominate if they put it all together. And I don't know what exactly it is that's not keeping them from it. But my point is this, that they go to Ohio State, and I get it. I mean, Quay was wanted to be assured to be a starter, and James Smith thought he was worth a little more. Okay. But, I mean, you stay at Alabama, you get paid well enough. You might not be a starter if you're Russaw, but you'll get to play a lot. And you have built a legacy, and you're an Alabama legend for God knows how long.
Yeah.
And I just think all that people miss the point, miss the boat on that sometimes. All right.
They do. That is a big thing. And I do think a lot of kids are short-sighted when it comes to after football. This transferring to other places, especially when you're dealing with a place like Alabama, does not aid them well. When for instance, I mean, my wife was in HR, so hiring, is a big part of HR function. And I think when you're a former Alabama player, that's applying to a big company, you're greatly aided if you used to be an Alabama athlete or an Alabama player. It just looks significant. But the guys that transfer out aren't former Alabama players. As far as I'm concerned, Quay Russaw and James Smith will one day be former Ohio State players. So maybe, football will end for these kids, and I don't think they fully grasp that. I guess they all think they'll be billionaires playing football, so it doesn't really matter.
Jalen Hurts notwithstanding, because he's different than everything.
That's different. He was a heroic player at Alabama, which is a little different than just being a guy on the team that plays.
Yeah, and he graduated. He got a degree, and he still considers himself a Bammer. So, but one more thing about this topic. My buddy Brian Pasek, who does the color for Alabama, he played at Alabama, was there when I was there. I bet he'd tell you right now, because he's told me before, the fact that he played at Alabama and made contacts at Alabama and just stayed at Alabama, was there the whole time, has been invaluable in his career. Not forget the radio call-in stuff, forget the broadcast. I'm talking about his actual career. And, it gets a foot in the door. And so I don't know, I guess you could make the argument that if you're like TJ Finley and you're in your 7th school, then, hey, you've made contacts at 7 places. I don't know. All right, Jimmy, you wanted to talk about some walk-ons, and they deserve their flowers, so let's give it to them.
Yeah, I just want to mention a few, because tomorrow we're going to start the roster ranking, the countdown to spring practice, where we rank the roster from best player down to the bottom. And every day a scholarship player gets their own day here on the show, where we spend a segment discussing their career to date and what we expect going forward. But that leaves out a lot of the walk-ons and practice guys. And I just want to mention a few in advance of the roster ranking. So just a shout out to these 8 or 9 guys. How about from the portal that we just got, Ethan Stangle, the long snapper from Syracuse? He's walking on. Good chance he'll be the starting long snapper this fall. So he'll be a significant player, even though coming to Alabama's preferred walk-on. The punter from North Alabama, Adam Watford, he could easily prove to be the starting punter. He's going to beat out Alex Asparuhoff, who's the scholarship high school punter at Alabama. That's going to be one of the fun battles of the spring. Young redshirt freshman Alex Asparuhoff versus UNA transfer preferred walk-on Adam Watford. Jackson Shuttlesworth is another guy they've signed in the portal this portal cycle who will walk on. He's a tight end from Jack State. A lot of jokes out there about how many tight ends Alabama's signing. What people need to keep in mind, or what people don't know, is Alabama had 4 walk-on tight ends on the team last year. 4. They were all seniors. They're all gone. So they feel like they need to replace maybe up to 4 walk-on tight ends that all sort of cycled out. Some more high school guys. Ben Jackson, he's a wide receiver from Mobile. It's from Murphy High School. I don't know that he could get in the rotation, but with very few wide receivers coming back, maybe Ben Jackson gets some reps. He's a pretty good player. I remember him from high school pretty well. Jay Williams is going to compete with Ethan Stangle to win the long snapper award. He's from Ringgold, Georgia. He was the number 2 long snapper in the nation when he came out of high school, and is a walk-on at Alabama. He's going to be good competition for this Stangle kid from Syracuse.
How would you like to be the guy who ranks the long snappers?
That happens at that's not something that you'll see on BOL, by the way. But no, it's the long snapping camps that do this. They're believing it. This happens at the special teams camps. They rank the kickers, they rank the punters, and they rank the snappers. And then colleges use those rankings when inviting kids to walk on, or in rare instances, a scholarship guy. Last 3 or 4, John Gazzaniga is a quarterback. I doubt he's going to get much run, and who knows, he may have. I mean, I don't think he's entered the portal. Some people watch him at practice and go, this guy should be playing somewhere. 6'7", a walk-on from California. There you go. That's why I mentioned him, so Luke could do this 6'7" thing on air. Anderson Green is a contender to win the punting job. He's a walk-on from Tuscaloosa, from Northridge and Tuscaloosa. I think he's one of these guys that's got a chance to win the punting job. J.D. Martin is a center. He can also snap. He can do both things. He was the scout team center, all in preparation for the bowl game. Had a lot of injuries and banged up guys there. So J.D. Martin's played a significant role, on the scout team with the program before. He's been at Alabama since his freshman year. Last couple, Lane Wisenhunt, a linebacker from Vestavia. We're short on numbers at linebacker. Maybe Lane Wisenhunt gets on the field. A lot of people listening to the show probably know him and his family being from Vestavia. And finally, maybe the best walk-on the team. If I was like picking out one guy that's like, who's the most gifted guy that we've talked about? He may even be on scholarship now, although there was never an announcement about it if he was. But Colby Peavey from Excel, he's been on the team since his freshman year. He's gotten into games. I think, the Eastern Illinois type games. He's gotten into games now, and I think he's going into his junior year at DB. He may be the most talented of all the walk-ons on the team in terms of a guy that maybe should be playing a role on special teams and earning a scholarship. So just wanted to give a shout out to those guys because we start the roster ranking tomorrow when we'll be focused on the scholarship players.
And of course, XL is the home of the former late great
Leroy Jordan.
Correct.
Your cousin somehow, some way.
I mean, I'll tell you that is, how big a deal you are when people, I mean, it's when you think Leroy Jordan, I think Excel. When I think Excel, I think Leroy Jordan. I mean, that's how big of a dude he was. And he's, he recently passed, sadly. I've always said I was kind of related to him because my mom's brother married his wife's sister. I think that counts.
That sounds like a reality show.
The problem is, if I count that, I've got to count some other family members, which I'd prefer not to, that are actually related to me.
They should rename the town XL after Leroy Jordan. And I only say that like half joking. I mean, because you're right. His name is synonymous. That town, whenever you hear XL, Alabama, that's who you think of.
There's no doubt about it. All right, we're going to talk a little game time right now. Game time is the best. There's nothing like college football season, the tailgates, the packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, God, that part used to be frustrating with long queues and logins and prices jumping up at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I mean, like, they got concerts, they got everything. Look, the zone deals stand out to me. You pick a section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save even more. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word for $20 off your first purchase at Game Time today. Download the Game Time app today. Jimmy Stein guarantee. Oh man, Jimmy, this we're about to start something that's going to be a lot of fun for Gumps. There's about to be a long line of Alabama Hall of Famers, thanks to Nick Saban. And Mark Ingram is the first. He's the first Saban guy to get into the Hall of Fame. He certainly will not be the last. There will be a lot. And this is a big honor for Mark Ingram. Super excited for him. It's amazing in a way that when he had his 2009 season, which was, I mean, he was remarkable. And I thought he certainly deserved it. I mean, I'm a homer, but he certainly deserved it, I thought, over, what was it, Toby Gerhart that year? I mean, come on. And Ingram, of course, went on to have a nice pro career, not the most decorated you've ever seen, but very nice. And now he's in broadcasting. And he is still King Gump, which we all appreciate. But in that 2009 year, as talented as that team was, and it was uber talented, without Ingram, they don't win the title. So he's the first Heisman winner in Alabama history. But it's amazing to think how many running backs have come through since then that, in my opinion, were better. I mean, obviously, Derrick Henry, I think Trent Richardson, strong argument for his being named better. Najee Harris, certainly. I mean, there a lot of guys that have come through since then. Jahmyr Gibbs, even if you want to include him as a one-year guy. But Ingram is special. I mean, Ingram's the kind of guy that, I mean, not only was he very talented, his reputation is bolstered by the fact that he loves the university and that he's the poster boy for turning this thing around.
Yep. I think one of the, it's a fun conversation, like who's the face of the Saban-era. Ingram is on the short list. I don't know that he would be the number one, but if there, and it's so hard to narrow it down to one guy. So many of the all-time, like now, if you did, okay, what's the Alabama all-time team? A lot of them would come from the Saban era, or several would. Not, be a lot of Brian era guys, a lot of Saban era guys. And boy, just appreciate Mark still a face on Big Noon Kickoff. So he still waves the Alabama flag. He's not shy about doing so on that show, which doesn't get a lot of Alabama love because they cover the Big 10 and the Big 12. But real happy for Mark. And he had an underrated pro career. I hope people never look at his pro career as anything differently. I mean, it was a first-round pick. And early in his career, some people said, man, I don't know that he was worth that first-round pick. But then you look at the all-time rushing leaders, he definitely belonged in the first round. You're on mute, and I bet Ingram's going to be mad because you were like throwing him flowers and nobody can hear, and you're like, Ingy's like, I can't hear Luke. He's talking good about me.
So dumb. But yeah, Ingram was New Orleans all-time leading rusher, I believe, until Alvin Kamara has since.
I think Kamara might have broken some of those records. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All-time leading rusher in Saints history, even though he held it briefly, it's still a pretty cool title.
It's a cool title, and he was like, he sort of was the same runner he was at Bama to a degree. I mean, he had some long bust-out runs. I mean, I remember one against Mississippi State in particular when he had a long run, and he talked about how he looked up at the scoreboard to watch himself run in the end zone.
Yeah.
Because they have that giant television that looks like a Panasonic or something, like it's even got the big back to it and rabbit ears on top. But he was just sort of a workhorse. I mean, he's going to get you 2 to 3 really tough yards, maybe occasionally get you 10 yards, but he was good out of the backfield. He's just I'm really, really happy for him. He certainly deserves this. And I think this is, like I said, this is going to be a long line of Sabanites Saban alums who are going to get into the College Football Hall of Fame. I wonder if somebody like, oh boy, Rolando McClain. That's who I was trying to think of. Rolando. I wonder if he will get in. Now, you could also say he was sort of the defensive Mark Ingram, but he wasn't recruited by Saban. Actually, he was in Saban's first signing class.
He was in Saban's first class, but he had committed to Shula. He just maintained he had maintained his commitment following the coaching change.
But that's a fun off-season topic. Like, name a bunch of guys in the Saban era. Yay or nay, will they get in the Hall of Fame? I mean, Derrick Henry's a no-brainer.
I'll tell you who else is a no-brainer. His name might not come up, but Barrett Jones is in for sure.
Oh, Barrett Jones is like, that's so. And what's funny is, if you were making your all-time Bama team, he probably wouldn't even come to your list. And then when you see the accolades, you'd be like, wait a minute, I got to put him on there.
He may be the most decorated player in Alabama football history in terms of the amount of significant.
He's up there with Tebow in terms of decoration. I mean, seriously,
it is crazy what Barrett Jones was able to amass in his time at Alabama. AJ McCarron was also pretty heavily decorated, considering he's a non-Heisman winner. But AJ,
well, that's it. I mean, do you think he gets in the Hall of Fame?
I think he would have to, and this is why I would say that AJ definitely deserves to be in College Football Hall of Fame. Back-to-back national championships as the quarterback, and good luck.
Could have been 3 in a row.
Good luck finding someone else who's back-to-back college football national championship quarterback. I think that alone, but then he's also won the Maxwell Award. You have to win that, which is the Heisman. I mean, the Maxwell Award has the same kind of, whoever wins the Maxwell Award is satisfying the same requirements as the Heisman winner, and he won that, so that could put him in as well.
Well, AJ actually won 3 titles, though, right? Because he was a freshman.
He was a freshman on the 09 team. He was a freshman on the 09 team, and then the 2011 and 2012 teams when he was the starting quarterback, and then he could have done it in 2013 if not for that.
There's something happened.
I'm not sure if you've heard what happened at Auburn. It was
I wish they'd talk about it more so that we could remember it.
Yeah, I forgot. Something weird happened. Had something to do with the band on the field or something. I don't know.
But that really, by the way, last night, I don't know, talking about fantastic finishes. Last night in the SEC basketball, dude, I don't know if you watched any of the games. Kentucky LSU was awesome.
Who won Vanderbilt, Texas?
Texas won. Texas won by like 16. Okay. But
I fell asleep before it was over.
Yeah, I did too. But I'm glad Texas won just for the title, shaping up stuff. But the LSU Kentucky game was fantastic, and the Kentucky broadcast guy, I don't know if you saw it, but they had to throw a full court pass, basically to the free throw line on the other end. Kentucky's down 1. They have a 7-footer whose name escapes me, but he jumps up and catches it. It took a lot to catch a pass like that. He jumps up, catches it, turns very quickly, shoots it, swishes it. Kentucky wins, and he goes, now that's a bluegrass miracle, because you remember the bluegrass miracle with LSU and Nick Saban when they had already Gatorade dumped. What's his name?
Yeah, there's a whole SEC network show. Guy Morris. There's a whole SEC network show called Miracles about Kentucky's miraculous comeback to win a basketball game at LSU, and LSU's bluegrass, the pass that won a game on the final. It's a Hail Mary type situation. So it's crazy that happened yet again. And
it happened sort of the same way, like a Hail Mary pass that just ends up.
Well, sounds like the Leitner play. Sounds like I haven't seen it, but it sounds like the Christian Leitner play.
It was kind of like that. It wasn't far from it. There wasn't enough time to actually make the little move Leitner made. But and then Ole Miss, I mean, they take UGA into overtime. Georgia's been great in basketball, and then they get a tip in right at the very end, just as the buzzer sounds. I mean, it was a great night. I mean, look, SEC basketball isn't as good as it was last year. There's not as much quality, like top to bottom, but. Or I shouldn't say top to bottom. I should say at the higher end. Like I don't know how many teams can win a national championship, but man, I mean this with all sincerity. Just about any given night, anybody can beat anybody, and that's such a cliche thing to say, but I mean it. All right. So yesterday, Ty Simpson got some. inadvertent good news because Dante Moore has decided to return to school for Oregon. And what's funny about that, so Dante Moore was probably going to be the number 2 quarterback. I mean, Fernando Mendoza is going to go 1. And then Dante Moore was probably going to go 2nd. And what this means is, according to Mel Kiper, and I'm right there with him, now Ty Simpson is the 2nd best quarterback in the draft. Now, Trinidad Chambliss is there, but it's really boy, this is such a backhanded compliment, but it's a weak quarterback year. But because I really believe that, because, I mean, frankly, I would think most years, even Fernando Mendoza, as good as he's been, I probably wouldn't pick him number 1. He seems kind of risky to me. But Mendoza 1, Simpson 2, Chambliss 3, and then Drew Aller at 4 and Carson Beck at 5, John Mateer at 6, Nussmeier, who everybody was in love with, he's at number 7, Javi at 8, Taylon Green, and then Sawyer Robinson from Baylor. And I just think that's great for Ty. What another funny thing that happened. So if Dante Moore had gone 2nd, he'd be going to the Jets. And a Jets fan tweeted out, okay, Dante Moore, if you're not going to be with us when we're 3-14, you're not going to get to be on the bandwagon when we're 3-14 again.
That is funny. Yeah, benefits Ty, years from now, though. If they're, when they list, okay, these are the quarterbacks that have been taken in the first round in the last 10 years, they don't put an asterisk by your name when it says, oh, but that year it was a weak group. So I don't think that needs to be a focus, but it's going to be said 1,000 times. And it's unfortunate because, again, there's not an asterisk. You're a first round pick or you're not. This is where, when we say, boy, this benefited Ty. Maybe it did. It certainly might have benefited his pocketbook if he's the 2nd quarterback taken. But my concern for Ty, I was kind of excited when he was going to be the 3rd or maybe even falling to the 4th, because the spot that I really like for Ty is the Rams. Mm-hmm. They have an aging starter. They also have 2 first-round picks. That's a good time to take a flyer on a quarterback when you have 2 first-round picks. Rams have 2 first-round picks, an aging quarterback, and more importantly, a good team around him and a good organization where Ty could have gone in, backed up Stafford, and then had a good team around him. I think that's ideal. Now just imagine Ty going to the Jets at 2, which I don't think is going to happen. I really don't think it's going to happen. But Ty to the Jets at 2, I don't know that helps the Jets or Ty Simpson. And that to me is an organization that just needs a lot more help. They need to trade out of 2 or
you know what that is?
Take a slam dunk good player at 2, like Reuben Bain.
The circumstances are different, but I think the result could be the same. It's Mac Jones going to the Patriots after Tom Brady. I mean, he was in a no-win. I mean, there was no chance this was going to work. You want to be the guy who follows a guy.
Declining franchise with Belichick on the wrong side of the hill.
Yeah.
And then they're terrible. Jared Mayo, I think, is who they hired after Bill. That went bad. And that was just a bad time for Mac. But those quarterbacks that are drafted, like Bryce, I mean, Bryce had to survive those 2 first years with the Panthers. Now they've picked up his option for his 5th year, which means, by the way, it's enormous money. So good for Bryce.
Oh man, they almost beat the Rams too. Now look, I'm going to say this, and I mean it with all my heart. Bryce Young's in my top 3 favorite players of all time. The Panther, this is why I'm against all these expanded playoffs and automatic qualifiers. The Panthers, nor the Falcons, nor the Saints, nor Tampa Bay had any business being in the playoffs. They're not one of the best teams. They don't deserve to play for it. But I was pulling my heart out for Bryce Young, and it wasn't his fault that they lost that game. The defense gave up a score late. They could have stopped them. Some other interesting things from Mel Kiper. No Alabama running backs in his top 11 because he's got a top 10, then just missed. But he does have Le'Veon Moss, who people forget. Le'Veon Moss was committed to Alabama for a hot minute and then flipped to Texas A&M. He does have Jeremy Bernard. I'm going to run through these very quickly. He has Jeremy Bernard at number 8 in terms of wide receivers. If you ask me, pretty good year for wide receivers. Zachariah Branch, Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Casey Concepcion, Chris Brazel from Tennessee. I mean, that's a good group. Now, the other thing that if you look this up on ESPN.com, you will ask yourself this: how in the hell did Ohio State not win the national championship? Because they got dudes at every position.
They played Indiana to within 3 points. That might look pretty good come Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
There'll be people arguing that Ohio State was the second best team. If Indiana kind of spanks Miami,
I agree.
Saying, Ohio State was the second best team. They played Indiana within 3.
Yeah. Now, they've got Josh, or he does have Josh Cuevas at number 7, but not at tight ends. He's got him at fullback, H-back. Thought that was kind of interesting. Caden Proctor, number 3 tackle. Then LT Overton, number 8, defensive end. Tim Keenan, number 8, defensive tackle. Off-ball linebacker is Justin Jefferson at number 8. I'm seeing a theme here. No cornerbacks. And here's something interesting. He's got Bray Hubbard, and this just came out yesterday. He's got Bray Hubbard at number 5 on safeties. But Hubbard's coming back.
Yeah, Hubbard's coming back. So
I think he just did this and then put it out and didn't notice it, I guess. I mean,
he might have just missed that. And of course, that's very difficult to keep track of. It's good that Hubbard, if he's number 5 this year, maybe he moves up, maybe he comes back and moves up a couple spots, because Mel Kiper's list is, I know people make fun of Mel, but he's actually the reason he still has the job after 40 years is because he's often right. But it's impossible to be right 1,000% of the time, but people like to harp on the few times that he's been wrong. Boy, here's a common thing. We got a lot of time for Alabama in the draft, and it's one of my favorite subjects. But my early take on Alabama in the draft, Alabama is going to have double-digit players drafted, which is phenomenal when that happens. And it puts you on the very short list of most players drafted. I think Alabama will have double digits, but a difference between this draft and previous, let's call them Saban drafts, is I think it's going to be a really busy day 3 for Alabama. I mean, so I think maybe 10, maybe even 12 guys drafted, majority on day 3. Though I do think they'll have the 2 first-rounders, and Caden Proctor and Ty Simpson, who I think will ultimately go in round 1. Early projection for me would be 15 to 25 for both of them.
I mean, look, I think just because Ty's a second-rated quarterback and the Jets need a quarterback, I hope the Jets have enough foresight to be like, we probably should take Jeremiah Love or in some other defensive tackle or end or something, or because this is going to be a doomsday scenario for Ty to go to the Jets, if you ask me. I'm with you 100%. I think the Rams make the most sense. I always hate it when our guys go to the West Coast because it feels like I don't get to see them as much. But at the same time, I also get the direct ticket, so I know what I'm complaining about. But anyway, that's going to do it for today's
podcast. The Jets should take a look at Tua if he becomes available.
God, what do you hate him?
No, I'm just trying to get Tua a job.
Okay, I want Tua to have a job too.
Tua needs to be one of the 32 starting quarterbacks. Is what he needs. Tua needs to be one of the 32.
Mac Jones does.
Mac Jones does as well. That's a good point.
But I mean, behind Tua going to the Jets, I mean, the Dolphins are dysfunctional. The Jets are woeful. I mean, it's crazy. You know what? It's like Leroy to excel is a great, like, this equals that. But the Jets equal in the 69 Super Bowl. It's like God said, all right, I'm going to give you the 69 Super Bowl, and I'm going to give you the finger wave as you run off, and you're going to beat Johnny Unitas. But then that's it. That's all you get forever. I mean, they hadn't peed a drop in so long.
Yeah.
Moby Dick was a minnow the last time they did anything. Always love that saying.
We need a different literary analogy. That one's been around a while. We need a different literary analogy.
What can I say? I don't know. I'll think of something. And, it's funny, like, I get hung up on one and I forget I've already used it, and then I think it's funny and it doesn't get a reaction.
The T-Rex in Jurassic Park was literally on his first life.
He was still in amber. He's still blood in a mosquito. All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.